Hello, all you outdated, backwoods, fear-mongering, tinfoil hat-wearing, deplorable dinosaurs. I'm Steve. Welcome to the Opinionated Prepper. It's going to be a fairly good day, I reckon. Sorry I kind of bailed on you these last few days. I was doing a video, and it was about how your life is going to change. I mean, for any reason, good or bad, your life is going to change. And if you look at the way your life is headed, or at the events going on around you, then you'll be able to tell if it's for the good or for the bad. I was once again trying to get people into prepping, because I think my mantra now, the motto that I have, is the more of you that prep, the less of you I have to worry about. Then you don't come to my house begging for food or acting a fool, and I don't have to show you the business end of my collection. That's it's a long mantra, it's a long motto, I know. Bear with me, I'm sorry, but it explains most things. But as I was doing that, and as I was trying to convey the state of the world, and I was making a list of how much prices have gone up across the board, just off the top of my head. Bacon, carbonated drinks, paper towels, meat, especially beef. That's all of it is going up, and it's going up and up and up and up. And I called the alarm on hyperinflation about a year ago. I was saying, no, it's here. The difference between inflation and hyperinflation isn't the amount that it goes up, it's the speed in which it goes up. And we've been seeing it go up just a little bit here and there every week, every month. But it seems now it's making huge jumps. Things, take bacon for example. I know many of you, if you're listening to me, you're Torah observant, you don't eat bacon. I'm of that ilk, but I'm not of that ilk. And that I explained that a ways back in one of my Saturday Sabbath videos. If you want to, go back and take a look at that. While you're doing that, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up, give me a like. I want to say smash the like button. If you're as passionate as me and you smash the like button, you're going to break something. So gently put your finger on the mouse, click the like button. Do me a favor and share and subscribe too if you want to do it. I'm going to get more into who are you listening to? Do you think prepping's nonsensical? Do you think it's not worth it? Or do you have a correct picture of prepping at all? And are you prepping the way that you need to prep for what's right to you? I'm getting into that. But I'll go back. The price of bacon was $3.94 for the longest time. Year after year after year. Okay, then about a year ago, whenever the hippies in California decided to reduce the amount of pork products that can be raised by about half, because it wasn't fair to the pigs that were being raised for slaughter. Living conditions weren't quite. So they had to give them their own apartment suites. They had to make the living arrangements twice as big as what it was. So that means they're raising half the amount at a time. So I knew prices were going to go up. But right about the time, a couple of months afterwards, you saw prices raised to $5.94 for about a year and a half. That's damn near double. That's why if you watched one of my past videos, and I'm saying I'm trying hard not to cuss, because the last couple of days it's been a thing and I've been letting it slip a little bit more. For that, I deeply apologize. But I was saying horse pucky, that it's gone up by 3.7% year over year, 2.1, 5.27%. No. If you're doing the math right off the bat, and it's $4, and then it's raised by 2, that's 50% right off. But it stayed like that for about a year and a half, and then overnight didn't raise by a penny, didn't raise by 15 cents, didn't raise by a quarter, jumped up $2 just like before. And then in 6 days, not even a week, it jumped another 97 cents, something like that. Either which way, it went from $5.94 to $7.94 to $8.87. So you do the math. I'm not thinking about the math now. But that's just an example. Paper towels jumped up $2 like that. Soda. I'm a huge Pepsi fan. Love it. I've been drinking it for as long as I can remember, since I've been at least 8 years old, 9 years old. I just love Pepsi. My favorite product. In 2020, when all of that junk was happening, for about a year it went up to like $7 a 12 pack bottles. Now that kind of got me, because like I said, I've been drinking it for a while, so I keep a hold of the price. I still remember when it was $5 for a 24-pack cans. Then that jumped up to $8, then $9. But it went up to $6.98 or something like that. And it stayed that way for a few months, and then it dropped back down to $5.94 or something. Just now again, it jumped right back up to $6.98. And if you're not paying attention, we've been in a carbon dioxide shortage. And it's not just carbonated drinks, it's not just, your favorite beer or anything like that. Carbon dioxide is used in a blasting process for milk. It's the things that you're noticing right now, that their shelf life isn't as long, or you're getting something like a gallon of milk. And I've heard from person upon person upon person, and happened to me for the last few months, that milk, not only is it tasting a little different, but when you get it, it goes bad before the expiration date. And when I get it, I only have maybe 3 days before it starts tasting off. And I've dumped more milk. I've cooked with products with more on the verge milk than I've ever had. And it's because carbon dioxide shortage. There's a lot of things that gets blasted with carbon dioxide to kind of prolong the shelf life. Look into it if you want to. But I'm saying all this to explain what I've been doing. See, I generally try to give an overall categorization, if I said it right, about how I prep, what I prep, but I don't go into my prepping regiments. I don't go into what I have, what I don't have, what I need, what my schedule is, for security concerns, more or less. I'm not even my closest friends or my family or anyone that I consider in my mutual assistance group, not even they know the depths and the quantities of the things that I have. Because if nobody knows, then I don't have to worry about being targeted. And you may not think that's a thing. I'll go into it a little bit. This is going to be a little bit long. Bear with me. It's not just going to be talking. It's not just going to be blah, blah, blah. I'm going to try and give some useful hints, and it's going to be geared more at the beginner and focus on intermediate, but some advanced preppers. I don't want to say homesteaders, because even though what I do is technically homesteading, it's more of a prepping thing. Homesteading, general rule of thumb is they get 90%, 95% of everything that they need. They're self-sufficient, living in the country, blah, blah, blah. I'm self-sufficient on some things, other things I'm not. I don't get the majority of my food out of the garden because I'm in a small city, and even though I have a plot of land in my house, it's not big enough to grow. But the main reason I don't is because I'm terrible at gardening. I'm just bad at gardening. I mean, I get a small to mid-sized yield. There's absolutely no way that I could survive 365 days a year on my gardening, let alone my family, let alone people I want to help. As I said, I'm a scavenger prepper. I know what I need, I find what I need, I use things, and I grab some things that I may be able to use in the future. That's my MO, more or less. But getting into all of this, seeing the prices, seeing the costs, seeing how terrible dog food is, because I have quite a few dogs. The majority of them are beasts. They eat more in one sitting than I could eat in 2 or 3 days. They're huge. And seeing how much it's risen, and man, if you don't know, or if you haven't seen that much of a price hike in your dog food, you're one of the lucky ones. It's gone, I mean, over twofold. I was spending, I think, $93 a month on my dogs for dog food. Now it's around the $250 a month. And it seems month after month it's going up and it's going up. Pardon me. But as I'm talking and as I'm putting out this video and I'm trying to explain from each different sector the bad things that are being forecast, the bad things that are being predicted, the bad things that we see happening around us, to give reason for people to try and prep, I started noticing and I started thinking it's been well over a year since I revised the way I prep. And I highly suggest that every couple of months, especially with the way the world changes now, I highly suggest that you look at your prepping schedule, look at the way you prep and what things you need. Look at that on a continuous basis. Every 2 to 3 months, look at it and revise it and see if you're still buying the things you need to buy, or if you're good and you need to focus on other things. For an example, because of the dog food, since I've revised my plan, I've added more chickens and I've added more of a protein source that way. And you might say, okay, good, it saves you money, but yeah, it saves me money, but it added having feed and having grain for the chickens. Now, going in my regular schedule, I buy a certain kind of dog food, a certain amount of dog food that they always eat, with some extra for the month or the week, so that way I'm adding to my stocks, so that if it's too expensive or if it's out, because that's been happening quite a lot, I don't have to switch brands, I don't have to get a lesser quality or anything like that. I can hold back and use my stock until it comes back in, and I'm set pretty good with that. But adding the feed, adding the grain, I look at it and I put a question out there, you know, what do homesteaders, what do other people feed their dogs if they don't give them a processed dry dog food? Or I don't like canned dog food. I have a history of knowing what goes in it, and it's not good for dogs. Processed dry really isn't fantastic for dogs either, but still. And I'm getting opinions, I'm getting everything, you know, but I changed what I feed my dogs, how much I feed my dogs, you know, and what they need, and looked at that, you know, and having more eggs and more of a protein source, I can add that into their diet, so I buy less dog food, and that kind of helps cover the cost of the grain and the feed and everything. Now I have to plant some feed that I can give the chickens, you know, sunflowers and this and that and the other thing that I wasn't growing as much of, so that way I can supplement them out, because the chickens can provide a protein source for the dogs, for my family, for everything. So I had to change that plan and I had to revise it. I have to go through and I made a list of what I have. Now this is where it kind of gets into tips and it gets into kind of tricks and stuff, and who you're paying attention to. There's lots and lots and lots and lots of preppers and homesteaders that are out there, and a lot of people link the two. They think if you're a homesteader, you're a prepper. If you're a prepper, you have to be a homesteader. That's not necessarily true. And there's a lot of people out there that are saying you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. They don't know you. They don't know where you live. They don't know your area, and I've mentioned that in a couple of other places. You know, if you're looking for sources on how to do things, That's fantastic. If you're looking up YouTube trying to figure out how do I make my tomatoes grow bigger, or you're looking how do I put a new starter in a so-and-so vehicle, blah blah blah, that's good, that's great, because there's a certain way and there's tips and tricks and hacks and everything like that. But when it comes to prepping, when it comes to knowing your soil and your area and what you need most, that's on you. Don't listen to anyone else. Because if you're listening to somebody that lives in, say, Tennessee, and you're in New Mexico or Nevada or Arizona, you're in high plains, you're in desert conditions, you're in everything like that. This person that's in the Smoky Mountains, or this person that's in the Mississippi Delta, they have a completely different soil, a completely different temperature. They may have to deal with more crime and people coming across when you don't, and you have to worry about more predators getting your stuff than they might have to, or a different kind of predator. You can't focus on what they tell you. And it's like this with the daily quantity of calories. That's never really worked very well for me, because I have grandchildren and I have daughters, I have sons, I have everything like that, and it'll say like 2,000 calorie bare minimum. That's if you're doing absolutely nothing, and then, well, for a regular grown size fairly active man, 3,000, 3,500 calories, yes, but your body may act different. There's certain nutritional guidelines that you'll need to keep going, but I know some people that have such a stringent physical work life that they go through 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day. I know some people whose metabolism goes so slow, even though they're working, and that's body type and that's everything else, that they would go good on 2,400 calories a day, 2,500 calories a day. There's some people that love to binge eat, and when they eat, they'll gobble it up, and I don't know why they don't get sick, but they'll go 2 days without eating, 3 days. I don't recommend that, because your body kind of goes into shock. It goes into starvation mode. Then your metabolism slows down to nothing. This really isn't a health aspect of it. I got into health when I was younger because I used to bodybuild. I used to power lift, and my son does now, my little baby boy, and I don't even know if he watches this because he's tired of hearing me talk, but my little baby boy that's a whole lot bigger than me and looks like he can bench press a Buick, he's gone to school for that, he's worked in that, he bodybuilds and power lifts, and he does what's right. So if there's things I forget about, I ask him about what a regular body would need, not like certain, but what every body type, what minerals, what vitamins, take supplements, if your diet's different, this and that and the other thing. But you need to get into that. You need to set your perimeter for yourself. You need to know your defense. You see, because in my area, even though it's a small city, I'm off in that city, kind of like in a corner that's hidden. And unless you've been around this area before, you know people in the area, unless you know the area is there, it's not a place that you stumble across. So the north side of my city is much different than where I am right now, even though my plan is for this to become like the north side of my city. There's a rural place that I know some law enforcement from, and they said they're keeping it out of the public because they don't want panic, they don't want anything like that. But they've seen, since the prices of everything has risen, since illegal aliens have been coming in, and yes, there's reports from Alaska, there's reports from very small towns. My small hometown that I grew up in is getting inundated with it. So it's in every corner, it's everywhere. But the small town police officer that I know, he said that he's seen home invasions and he's seen things like muggings that he really never saw before. It's a small rural town and community. Everybody knows everybody. I mean, you get certain meth heads and stuff like that out there, I reckon, and it's got its fair share of crime, but it's a different kind of crime, and generally it's a person or a family or a certain group of people that really are committing all of the crimes. If you've lived in a small rural town, you know this. But because of the food prices going up, because of the lack of jobs going, because of having a hard time paying your bills, and because of the illegal aliens coming in, they've seen a pretty sharp uptick in things like muggings, which they've never seen before. You know, people just going up and getting robbed on the street corner. Home invasions gone up a lot. So no matter what you do, no matter where you are, you really need your defense down. And if you're in New York, unfortunately, that liberal hive mind waste of an area, I have experience. I'm from New York, even though it's rural Cowtown, New York. Now they have background checks for ammunition as well as everything else. And if your background check is clear, that's fine. But I'll tell you something about New York. Every time I go to get a background check, it takes much longer than a normal person, because not only do they do the background check here, they have to do the background check up in New York. And New York drags their feet about everything. It took me almost 6 months to get my CCL. And it passed within 3 or 4 days in Arkansas. But New York got it. They got the request for the background check and everything, and they just sat on it dead. And then finally, kind of like a time limit hit, and they said, okay, here you go. Because they don't want that stuff. And it's not just New York, it's many other places that they find it very hard. But just imagine the rigmarole that you go through every time you get another firearm and you add to your collection and everything, or you renew your concealed carry or something like that. Now you do that every time you go to buy ammunition in New York, which is a hassle. And where I'm from, it's a huge hunting community. Everybody that I know by 13 years old, they're hunters. Everyone. And they're good shots, you know. Boy, girl, man, woman, it does not matter. First day of hunting season is a religious tradition and experience where I'm from. When I was younger, hardly anybody was in high school the first day of hunting season. And the people that did come usually brought their hunting rifles with them because they just got back from hunting and they did like a half day of school. Now, one idiot ruined that, you know, and yes, I was in one of the very first bad incidents involving that, and a student and a teacher and a classroom and all of that stuff, you know. And that idiot pretty much ruined it for everyone. But he was able to do that stuff because everybody was used to seeing a rifle hanging in the back of a truck, or people coming to school with their hunting paraphernalia, you know, and still wearing Carhartt, still wearing their boots, still, I mean, hats bundled up, because it's generally cold and there's snow on the ground in New York first day of hunting season. I'm sorry I went off on a thing. But for me, man, I went way off, didn't I? But for me, the calorie intake thing doesn't work because we have different physical needs for my family, the people in the house, the people I take care of. So for me, I go through and find out what I generally make for breakfast, lunch, dinner on a daily basis. The food that my family and the people I care about, what they eat, what they like, their snack regimen, what kind of things that they drink. You know, so on top of my caloric intake, I'm picking the foods that we like and the foods that we eat. If I find something on sale, like greens or something that my grandkids won't eat, I'll grab some and I'll put it back because it's a good last ditch food, but it's also good for bartering and this and that. So if you're finding deals, that's good. But if you're a huge Spam eater, load up on Spam. You know, if you're a huge meat eater, get as much meat as you can. But, and I'm telling you right now, even if you're not a huge meat eater, and one woman comes to mind that lives up in May, and she pretty well sees this. Her name starts with "ba" and ends with "thni." You're not a big meat eater, still get meat. Seriously, get meat while you can. Because even though you may not eat a whole lot, Other people will, and you can trade it off for other things. And it may be that things are rough and you can't forage, or you run out of any of your hippie food, and you run out of the food that my food eats. You're going to have to replenish your energy somehow. So get meat, folks. Come on. Even if you buy just cans of tuna fish, cans of chicken, cans of beef, or anything like that. Keystone is good, and it's still fairly cheap. It went down a little bit from when it went up last time, but it's starting to crack back up again. So you may want to get those. It went from like $7.97 to $9.97, something like that. That $2 thing seems to be going. But look at your stuff. If your family doesn't like beans, whether it be canned beans, dried beans, anything like that, chances are your beans are going to sit in the back of your cabinet. And that 88 cents or $1.18 now could have been used for something else. It could have been used for something with a protein source. You could have bought a can of SpaghettiOs with meatballs, and your grandkids would eat that. But one thing that you have to think of when it comes to this is the situation around you is going to take a toll. It's going to tax you mentally, emotionally. You're going to get exhausted from that, if you can even eat, because your stomach will be in knots. In a SHTF situation, I'm not talking about the huge global thing that's right around the corner. I'm not talking about the huge national thing that's right around the corner. And I'm not using that as an analogy. It's literally right around the corner, folks. You need to do some of your homework on all of this. But when you have an SHTF, when things happen, even if it's a family separation or a loved one not with us any longer, or nervousness because of bills, or you just got a repo, or you got anything that happens bad, you lose your appetite, you get sick to your stomach, you still need to eat a little bit, blah, blah, blah. But one thing that helps with that, when you're nervous and you're depressed and you're feeling low, is a comfort food. I know that overeating and going to food for your problems and, to drown your emotions in fudge ripple or something, that's not suggested. It's not a very good idea. But having hot cocoa on a night around a campfire, something like that, after you've had a day of terrible, you find that comforting. Mashed potatoes, you find that comforting. There's a reason they're called comfort foods. And if you're being forced to eat gruel, or eat, in my grandchildren's, I forgot the word it alluded, in their case, I'm sorry. In my grandchildren's case, it's cream of wheat. Now, I grew up on the stuff. I love cream of wheat. Love it. I hate oatmeal. Don't like it. Don't like the texture. It's just weird. But my grandkids love oatmeal. So I get both. But if we're out of oatmeal and they have to eat cream of wheat, they're not going to eat it. And it's going to make them more depressed, and it's going to make them upset because they're forced to eat something that they don't want to eat. And that's on top of all of the horror that they're experiencing at that point in time. So for a morale boost, get what you normally eat. All right, get powdered drinks, because drinking water day after day, hour after hour, minute after minute, although it may be fantastic for your body, every once in a while you want tea, or you want coffee, or you want a fizzy drink, or you want a sugary drink, something like that. And if you have a treat to give somebody, especially little children, it'll go a long way, and you'll go from dirt on their face, down, depressed, upset, to where you'll see a smile on their face. And mentality is all. If you're not in the right mindset, you are not going to make it. So if you can make things easier on yourself and on children or your wife or whatever, by stocking foods that you like, that you enjoy, so you're looking forward to eating, and you have those extra comforts foods. Stock up on cocoa powder. Stock up on, I don't want to give any brand names or anything because they're not paying me. But stock up on the orange drink that astronauts take to space with them. Stock up on that stuff. Make sure to get extra sugar if you're stocking up on a cool drink for the kids. Make sure you ration it out accordingly, and make sure that you get your preps. You're going to need extra sugar, so buy extra sugar. But have that for a treat for the kids. Milk, as I said earlier, is going bad quicker. My grandkids, I'm sorry, I have a cold. The weather's been all over the place. But the grandkids don't like powdered milk at all. They don't like it. I'm not a fan of it myself. I had it by the gallon when I was a kid, and I just don't like it. But saying that, if you have cocoa powder, if you have a little bit of sugar to put with it, if you have things to liven it up a little bit, using it in cereal or using it to give some flavor to cream of wheat, because I put milk in my cream of wheat and stuff like that, that'll help the taste of the powdered milk. So it doesn't seem like just a necessity that you have to drink it to stay healthy. All right, when it comes to scavenger prepping or anything like that, most homesteaders, a lot of preppers will tell you, if you eat eggs, do not throw those shells away. Those shells can be used for so much. You can even make a fire gel like Sterno using eggshells. It's a calcium supplement for yourself. For your chickens need a lot of calcium when they're laying eggs. Your dogs, you grind up those eggshells in a calcium powder. It's good for living things. If you just crush up the eggshells and you lay it around your plants and stuff, it's good for protection from your plants as well, because if you get slugs and all of that stuff, they won't go over the eggshells. So don't grind them into a fine powder or leave them jagged, but spread them all over. But the powder is good for plants as well. So if you're throwing away eggshells, you're throwing away a gold mine. You can use those for quite a lot. You're going to need to do that. But I guess the big thing is you need to look at yourself. Now, going through with my preps, there's a lot of stuff that we use on almost a daily basis for every meal. And that's certain vegetables, potatoes, corn, beans. Most of the time it's green beans, but sometimes kidney beans, blah, blah, blah. We're more or less a good old-fashioned Irish family. But something I do have to say, for the very first time in my life, I was looking around. There's a show that I like to watch. I love the show. I didn't know it was as big as what it is. Over in Scotland, it is like a huge thing. It's a few years old, and I'm not going to go into plugging the show or anything like that, but a lot of the Scottish heritage came through, and they had full English, Scottish, Irish breakfasts, and they were eating sausage rolls, and they were eating the Lorne sausage with their tomato beans, which I guess more or less like pork and beans, with fried eggs on it and this and that, but they were having a full blown. Now, I won't do blood sausage, because even though I'll do pork at times, I won't do blood. The Bible completely, do not drink blood, and I don't. I will not. I drain everything off, and I make sure it's cooked down and cooked down, cooked down. I don't eat anything even pink. It's got to be well done. But that's something else. I don't have the blood pudding or blood sauce or whatever they call it. I don't do that. That's just not right, especially if it's from an unclean animal like pork. You're kind of getting that double whammy there. That's just a personal belief, though. If you don't share that belief, then eat whatever you want. But going back to that, my grandkids, myself, we decided last night we were going to have one of those traditional Scottish breakfasts for dinner time, and I gotta tell you, man, it's good. I can see the appeal. I know what they're talking about. But it had the stuff like beans. They do like cheap stuff that's really good. So look into that. Grab some cookbooks, grab everything, but know what you eat on a daily basis. Do your grandkids eat? Do your kids eat like sugary cereals and everything? I'm not here to judge. If you eat a ton of fast food, you're wasting money and you're putting a lot of poisons into your body. And I suggest that you get away from the fast foods. If you get heavily processed foods, do the same, because it's not good for you. there's a reason that it's as cheap as what it is. I just made some apple butter and some strawberry preserves and everything like that, and I got to tell you, the cost on it, the cost differential, yeah, it costs a lot more for the good stuff that's good for your body and getting away from the cheap processed preserved food, But if you're in an SHTF, you're not going to get that processing, and your body is going to go through withdrawals from all of the chemicals and from the additives and from all of the stuff and the junk that they put into it. You will be craving fast food. You're not going to want to eat the good stuff because your body is craving the bad stuff. So it's just good to get away from it slowly. Now, if you don't want to, that's fine. Don't want to. Apparently, Big Macs and those French fries never go bad. So you can stock up on all that if you want to stock up. I don't care. It's a joke. Don't do that. But if you say you don't have time in the day, I know a lot of people that are out of work right now, or they need a side gig. And it's not hard to find somebody that's willing to make your meals for you. So that give them some extra money, do whatever, trade with them for anything that they need, do this, that, or the other thing. Let them do your cooking for you while you're at work or you're busy doing your thing. A lot of people, I'm single, so I have to make my food for myself and my grandkids. That takes up a whole lot of time. I had to hire a worker to come and kind of help me out with the tedious stuff because I can't do it, can't get to it, anything like that. But you can do that. You can find people or you can train them on how to pressure can so they can make your foods. You can pressure can beef stew, you can pressure can chili, spaghetti sauce, you can pressure can spaghetti and meatballs. You can make all of that stuff, and you can find somebody willing to do this stuff. Say, this is what I want, this is what I want. Use a delivery service, deliver it to their house, give them the stuff that they need to make it. They'll make it for you. You go and pick it up. And then you have food and you have stock supply because they're doing it for you. And it's worth some extra money if you just do not have the time. I understand that. I understand not having the time, not having enough hands, not having the ability to do it. But there's ways around it. If there's somebody that just can't afford, they're a smoker, and they'll smoke just about anything, roll your owns or cigars or this or that or the other, you can get online, you can get cheap cigars for 11, 12 bucks a carton. And if they're willing to smoke that and they do your cooking for you and you buy them 4, 5, 6, 7 cartons a month or something, that's a good way to barter, and you don't have to give them cash. They're still getting what they need, and they have the time, so they're willing to do it for you. You can do that stuff. There's ways to work around it. And they're stocking and they're preserving the stuff that you'll always eat. Make sure you have any snacks. Make sure you have popcorn. My family is huge on popcorn. It's big. And you'll find out that a lot of that caloric intake, people may feel like, I need to eat this, I need to eat this, I need to eat this. No, it's out of boredom or it's out of habit. But if your family, like mine, make popcorn or make something like that on almost a nightly basis, and you're not stocking up popcorn, you're going to get hungry. Your family is going to get hungry at that time of night. And then they're going to be raiding everything that they can to try and find something to curb that craving. You're not automatically going to go from eating the foods you want to eat to eating twigs and berries. You're just not going to. So don't waste your money on that stuff. Don't. If anybody says that you need to stock up on flour and stock up on wheat, I think that's a very good idea. And if you're not using it now, you should put it into your regimen. But if you don't use it, if you don't know how to make bread, if you don't normally eat bread or you don't eat bread, there's no reason to waste your money on that. If you're completely happy eating processed canned food, like soups and stews, or processed canned pasta, or dumping a can of potatoes, a can of mixed vegetables, or a can of beans into something and and you use a lot of butter, so get powdered butter or something like that. If you're good about doing that, do that. Don't listen to these people that say you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. They don't know you. Their advice that they're giving you is what they need to do and what suits them and what's best for them. It's not necessarily best for you. Am I doing the same thing? Basically, I'm telling you need to prep when you might say, I don't need to. But with that, I'm kind of like, okay, when life smacks you in the face, don't come to me. Another thing you have to think about, I told you it's going to be long, people, I'm sorry. I was gone for a few days. Another thing you have to think about, especially now, because of that officer that I was telling you about, that I was talking to, you have to worry if you're getting deliveries to your house or you're coming home and you've got a cartload of groceries or you have anything that looks fairly expensive. You have to be aware of your surroundings. You have to see if there's anybody out in the parking lot that's kind of looking at you and that follows you out of the parking lot. You have to look and see if anybody's following you home. You have to, before you start taking the stuff, before you open and unlock your door, before everything, scan your perimeter, glass it, take a look and see if there's a car that you don't recognize, or if there's a couple of people you don't recognize sitting in a car that's within eye shot of you so they can see what you're doing. Because even though they may not kick down the door while you're doing your stuff, that doesn't mean that they're not going to come back in 2 or 3 months because they remembered somebody that got all that stuff. You need to be careful. You need to have a defense plan. If you're not making sure that your actions don't make you a target, you're going to be a target. I do all that spy stuff. If you like movies, you like books, I took 3 subways and I went up this block and circled back a half a mile. I did that. Do that, man. Just drive around and around and around until the person gets bored. Do something that you have to do. But either which way, do it. If you're having deliveries or anything like that, make sure it's being left so it's not in plain view and not in eyesight of the road or any neighbors or anything like that. Because these people are making a note. If they're having a tough time, they're especially making a note. Be careful of that, especially now, because crime is rising and it's going to get even worse. You can take my word on that. Crime is going to get a lot worse. You need to be careful. Defense, you need to do it. You have to. I don't care if you live out in the country. Like I've said, all of the people that's going to be fleeing my area are running to your area because right now you are where they want to be when bad things happen. And if you don't think bad things happen in the country, check out some of the news. You guys aren't sheltered and you're not insulated from it. You're out in the country. I don't have a neighbor for miles. That just means that you don't have somebody to help you in quick enough time. So you need to be much more careful. But I think I'm going to end it right there, ladies and gentlemen. If you want, I might go through a thing and I might show you my list of what I'm prepping. Oh, there's something that I wanted to mention. I'm sorry. Don't shut me off yet. Don't shut me off yet. When you're prepping and you're looking at your regimen and you're looking at what you're focusing on first, with the food and with the defense and what kind of foods you need and how your routine may have changed and the importance and everything like that, keep in mind that you may find yourself out in the middle of nowhere. So even though you don't plan on bugging out, and for me, even though I should bug out because I'm not in a perfect locale, nope, not going to do it. All of the statistics that I have seen with certain depressions and certain migration and certain this, that, or the other thing, it's generally the people that leave their home turf that wind up getting in trouble, especially if it gets real bad out there. So I'm in and secure for as long as I possibly can be, but that does not matter if I find myself having to leave and I find myself in the middle of nowhere. All the everything that I have done is now gone. So are you going to be completely empty-handed? Don't be. Even if you plan on bugging in and locking down, have a bug out bag. Have something set up and ready to go in your vehicle. In the bug out bag, you need things like snares. You just in case. Take a spool of wire with you. Take some extra ammo if you're planning on this, that, and the other thing. I'm a knife collector, so I can pick and choose. A big, huge fixed blade that goes in my bag is a kukri, because I won't get into it. I might explain it to you. The shape of it, and just for the use and the functionality of what I'm looking for, a kukri is just about an all-in-one perfect thing. But I also have a K-bar. I carry just a regular fixed blade, just regular buck knife, and I have a Skinner knife. So I'm kind of set when it comes to blades. You need to do that. I'm not worried so much about the hatchet. My kukri is heavy enough to where it can take the place of a hatchet for small things. Now I may take my hatchet, because it's not that I don't have one, it's just that I don't really have it in my bug out bag. Generally it's not far from me. I guess I need to really put one in there. But even tomahawks are very resourceful. If you don't want a hatchet and you want to be native, you're going to wear some buckskin around everywhere and have some rawhide and do some brain tanning and everything like that, carry a tomahawk, make a peace pipe out of it, and you'll be in your heyday. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'd probably like doing that myself. But make sure you have snares. Make sure you have ways to get the lumber that you need. Make sure you have paracord. Don't use twine. Don't use any of that stuff. Get some paracord, man. It's not very expensive, and it's very functional. A lot of different uses for paracord. You'd be surprised with all the usage. Make sure you have something other than one lighter, a lighter. Make sure you have quite a few backups. Make sure if all of your lighters are just tanked and they're tapped and empty, make sure you have a ferro rod. Make sure you have something. If you're really good at the bow and drill, you're very good at friction fires, have a magnifying glass, all of that stuff, more power to you. That's fantastic. But a lot of times if you want to walk till dark, you need to make a really quick fire. And you're not always going to have fire. Trust me, you're not always going to have fire when it comes to a friction fire. So if you do have a bow drill kit and you're planning on doing that, have a backup with you. Have a way to start a fire. Have some char cloth, have some kindling, have some cotton balls with Vaseline. Honestly, for me, keep them in separate packs. Okay, but potassium permanganate and glycerin is a good thing. It's a big thing. You don't need to worry about the stuff. You cover it a little bit, you pour potassium permanganate in, you put a few drops of glycerin in, and within a few minutes you have a nice fire. So it's a chemical reaction. You don't have to worry about sitting there and click, 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 click until the flints wore out, or sitting there with a bow drill rubbing, trying to get that little tiny flame. With potassium permanganate and with glycerin, you've got it right there. Now, if it kind of joins together inside your bag, it's going to do more than light a fire under your butt to get moving. I'll do that. So make sure you have it in a very secure container, and you have it separate just in case anything happens. But you need to make sure to have those. Have fishing line, have the stuff that you need while you're out there. One thing that I suggest extremely, if bad things happen, and if bad things are bad, you're not going to get cell service, you're not going to get anything like that, but you have this little hard drive, 2 terabyte, loaded full of stuff for your phone. Have a battery backup that solar charges. Have a little solar battery backup so you can charge your phone, and you do all of that. That way, load it with all the information that you're afraid you're going to forget, that you get rusty on, or that you think you're going to need, like a debris shelter or something like that. Primitive survival. If you find yourself out. Now you may think, I'll sleep in my car and all this and all that. Hypothetically, just for poops and giggles, get a bug out bag. Make knowledge among one of the most important things in your bag. And for you to keep that knowledge, you always have your phone on you, whether it's good or bad. Get a hard drive, they're not expensive. Pay $10 for a battery backup, not expensive. Make sure it's solar powered so you can recharge it. It's not expensive. And it's something that's going to be key, because you can have a world of information right at your fingertips. All right. Now, I'm going outside an hour, but if you take, well, I'm going inside an hour, I'm almost outside. If you take anything away, do me a favor and take away that it's important to get tips and tricks and advice on maybe how you should start going about things, or the easier way to go about things, or some knowledge. But do not look at a prepper like myself or like any of the other preppers. I know I've only got a few views. I'm only about a month and a half into it, so cut me some damn slack. And I also don't use a whole lot of public media, so the only way I get put out there is by you wonderful people doing it. So if you don't mind, share me, subscribe, give me a little thumbs up, leave me a comment, if you will, just real quick, and let me know how you go about your routine of prepping, what you check. Do you go by the caloric standards and by a base? Do you add a lot of supplements in with your stuff? Do you have whey powder, protein powder? Do you have any of that stuff, creatine, anything? So that way, if you're stuck eating junk, you have supplements, which I suggest that's a good thing to do too, because you never know if you might run out of something. You know, granola bars, workout bodybuilding powders and stuff like that, it's always good. You know, stuff to make smoothies and all of that stuff, because powdered milk, if put with fruit and all of that, my grandkids will drink. So if you would, please do me a favor. I'm not, like I said, I'm not great at social media. I don't get on social media. I don't get on the book. I don't get on the tur or anything like that. The only time I do is to just drop the message. So it's not like I have millions and millions of followers there to come over here. So I'm asking you to do a little thing for me. I'm trying my best to do stuff for you and get you ready and prepared. Please do me a favor and just share it. Even if it's on your social media, or if it's to another friend, or saying, hey, do this, that, or the other thing. I would appreciate the uptick. I get a steady stream of viewers, but sooner or later they'll run out, and they're intermediate to expert, so sooner or later they're going to look back at my videos and say, I know all of this stuff, you're wasting my time, I'm going to someone else. I need to get those people that are kind of on the verge. So if you don't mind, let me know. Or if you don't feel like doing it for me, then do me a favor and leave me the name of somebody that you think might benefit from me. I'll get a hold of them. I'll see if they'll subscribe to my social media. I'll do it. I'm not afraid of the work. I'm just a very introverted person. I don't talk to a lot of people. But I hope you got something from this. You can follow me on Rumble. You can follow me on the tur. You can follow me on Facebook at The Opinionated Prepper, or Opinionated Prep, I think, on tur, because I ran out of room, something like that. But I'm not going to waste your time anymore. What I will say is, you guys need to get ready. You guys need to check your stuff. It's going to come a time, and it's going to, my opinion, I'm the Opinionated Prepper, my opinion, it's coming quick now. There's a little, I can't remember, was it Hemingway? They asked how he went broke, and he said, slowly at first, then quickly. I think we're in the quickly stage. We're seeing hyperinflation jump up to now it's on a weekly basis, where it's little by little on a weekly, or there's one big jump monthly. That gives us the sign of the end for this nation, or this globe. We're moving in pretty quick. So please, guys, make sure you have your stuff together. Because the more of you that are prepared, the less I have to worry about. And you don't come to my house begging for food or being a fool And I don't have to introduce you to the business end of my collection. God willing, we'll see you tomorrow.